Venezuela's Attorney General Tarek William Saab reported 51 new arrests linked to different corruption schemes under investigation. Taiwan's President Tsai Ing-wen met with United States House Speaker Kevin McCarthy in California despite China's outcry of the meeting as a provocation. South African authorities revoked the state of national catastrophe amid the ongoing energy crisis. Hello, welcome to From the South. I'm Luis Alberto Matos from the teleSUR studios in Havana, Cuba. We begin with the news. On Wednesday, the Attorney General of Venezuela, Tarek William Saab, reported on Wednesday 51 new arrests linked to different corruption schemes under investigation. According to the Attorney General of Venezuela, Tarek William Saab, the arrests were made on the grounds of corruption charges related to fraud schemes in Petróleos de Venezuela, PDVSA, Venezuela's national oil company, also Corporación Venezolana de Guayana, and Cartones de Venezuela. Likewise, Tarek William Saab stressed that the national and international community must know about the battle that the government of President Nicolás Maduro is carrying out against fraud in the country. Saab also indicated that to date there are 34 persons deprived of liberty for their involvement in the PDVSA crypto plot.
I would like to inform you that today, and I'm sure you will see more detainees, there are 51 people, men and women, deprived of their liberty for the various corruption schemes, including that one of PDVSA Crypto, which joins that of CBG, and that of the detainee judge, obviously the former mayor of Las Tejerías. When we add all this up, the figure reaches 51 people who have placed themselves in the hands of law at this moment.
In Brazil, on Wednesday, authorities report 2 separate violent incidents against learning facilities in the southern state of Santa Catarina and in Rio de Janeiro. According to authorities, at least 4 children have been killed and 4 others injured in an attack at a daycare center in Blumenau, Santa Catarina, after a 25-year-old man entered the Continuo Bon Pastor daycare center with an axe, attacked the minors, and then surrendered to the authorities. Meanwhile, in the Rio Mare community, 2 officers of the Caveirões or Skulls Special Force Police Battalion threw small gas bombs inside a schoolyard where an Easter activity was to take place for the children of the favela. Representatives of the workers' party in Rio de Janeiro condemned the acts against the school community and demanded an answer from Bolsonaro-aligned Rio de Janeiro Governor Claudio Castro for disproportionate use of force. And Brazilian President Luis Inácio Lula da Silva stated the murder of 4 children aged 4 to 7 this Wednesday at a daycare center in the southern city of Blumenau was a monstrosity. Lula took to Twitter to express that there is no greater pain than that of a family that loses its children or grandchildren, even more so if it is the result of an act of violence against innocent and defenseless children. Brazilian President added that for any human being who has a Christian sentiment, a tragedy like this is unacceptable and said it is an absurd act of hatred and cowardice. Finally, he also conveyed his sympathies and prayers to the families of the victims and to the community of Blumenau. Social and political organizations belonging to Piquetera Unit in Argentina held a nationwide strike to denounce there are 18 million poor and millions of homeless people in the country. The new day of demonstrations included roadblocks in different parts of the country and on access roads to the city of Buenos Aires. According to the organization, the protest epicenter was at the Buenos Aires obelisk, with some activities focused on Pueyrredon Bridge, La Noria Bridge, the Western Access Route, and the National Route 3, also known as Pan American Highway. Likewise, Piquetera Unit representatives added that the government denounced the economic measures in line with the IMF demands that are particularly affecting workers and plundering retired people, as well as affecting social welfare, health, education, and public works, among other sectors. The student movement March for Our Lives on Wednesday through their Twitter account called for a new mobilization on Thursday. The March for Our Lives movement called for the student community to walk out of classrooms and rally in front of Tennessee state capitol to protest gun violence and to demand action from the state's politicians in banning assault weapons a week after 6 people were killed in a mass shooting at a private Christian school in Nashville. On Monday, about 10,000 youth students had already protested at the state capitol as part of a movement to encourage Tennessee lawmakers to make changes to the state's gun laws March for Our Lives is a youth-led organization started by the high school students who survived the Parkland, Florida school shooting in the year 2018. Since then, they have hosted protests throughout the United States and have become a national organization. Let's take a short break now, but first remember you can follow us on TikTok at teleSUR English, in which you'll be able to see news in different formats, news updates, and much more. All the stories coming up. Stay with us. Welcome back from the South. On Wednesday, U.S. House Speaker Kevin McCarthy met Taiwanese President Tsai Ing-wen in California. McCarthy, a Republican who is number 3 in the U.S. leadership hierarchy, welcomed Tsai at the Ronald Reagan Presidential Library in Simi Valley, California, near Los Angeles, at the start of a meeting including all Republican and Democrat lawmakers. McCarthy called Tsai a great friend and added he is optimistic on joint work to promote economic freedom, democracy, peace, and stability. For her part, Tsai thanked McCarthy for his hospitality. The Taiwanese leader was met by both supporters and detractors, as her presence in U.S. soil is a direct provocation on China. Tsai transited through New York last week en route to Central America to visit 2 of Taiwan's few remaining diplomatic partners, Guatemala and Belize. In August 2022, the then House Speaker Nancy Pelosi visited Taiwan, despite China's warning and outcry of the act as a violation of the One China principle. The Italian Prime Minister Giorgia Meloni received on Wednesday the Spain's Prime Minister Pedro Sánchez at Palazzo Chigi in Rome. This is the first bilateral meeting between the two leaders of major southern European countries. The heads of state aim to seek a consensus on issues that will be the subject of debate and negotiation during the Spanish presidency of the European Union. Among them, the Pact on Migration and Asylum that the bloc has committed to approve before next year's elections to the European Parliament. Sanchez hopes to know Meloni's position on issues such as the reinforcement of the open strategic autonomy and competitiveness and the reform of the electricity market. In Italy, a Doctors Without Borders ship on Tuesday rescued more than 400 asylum seekers in the Mediterranean Sea next to the coast of Malta after receiving a distress call. Doctors Without Borders reported that after the difficult operation, one person had to be evacuated to Malta as an emergency because they were unconscious at the time of rescue due to severe dehydration after 4 days at sea, and the last 2 without food and water. The migrants set sail from Libya near Benghazi on Saturday, April 1st, and came from Libya, from Syria, Pakistan, Bangladesh, Egypt, Somalia, and Sri Lanka. The NGO explained shortly after the operation, the Italian authorities communicated that a Navy vessel will take care of 100 migrants to bring them to a port in Sicily, while the GEO Barents ship was authorized to disembark the remaining 339 in the port of Brindisi. On Wednesday, a heavy police presence lingers outside the home of Scotland's former First Minister Nicola Sturgeon, as Scotland's ruling party faced fresh turmoil following Sturgeon's husband's arrest as part of a police investigation into financial irregularities. Peter Murrell was chief executive of the Scottish National Party for nearly 25 years until he quit last month. In a statement, Scotland's police said they had taken a 58-year-old man into custody for questioning over the funding and finances of the Scottish National Party. The police raided several properties besides Sturgeon's home in Glasgow. Murrell has long faced questions about the alleged diversion of $750,000 in donations from his party intended to support a campaign for Scottish independence. teleSUR English continues to grow. You can now tune in from 33 different African countries through StarSat. Dial 461 and enjoy our Latin American alternative broadcast. One final short break, and we'll be right back. Stay with us. Welcome back from the South. On Wednesday, South African authorities revoked the state of national catastrophe amid the ongoing energy crisis. The South African government has revoked the national state of catastrophe declared in February to manage the crippling energy crisis. Government officials announced that they will work to reduce the impact of power cuts using existing legislation. The country's ongoing energy crisis has crippled multiple sectors, including the telecommunications services, which are struggling to keep telephone networks up and running. Operators are investing in the installation of solar panels and batteries, as well as testing wind turbines in an effort to maintain grid stability, as Africa's most advanced economy is forced to live in the dark for up to 10 hours a day. Kenyan President William Ruto met on Tuesday with his Rwandan counterpart Paul Kagame to discuss the security situation in Eastern Democratic Republic of the Congo and the protests in Nairobi. The meeting was part of Ruto's official two-day visit to Kigali on the invitation of President Paul Kagame in what is also the Kenyan leader's first visit to Rwanda since he came to power last September. According to a statement from the Kenyan State House, the agenda of the trip includes deliberations on topics of mutual interest and cooperation, such as the integration projects on the Northern Corridor as the main supply line for imports out of the region to Rwanda through Kenya. So far, Ruto has met with leaders from Uganda, Democratic Republic of the Congo, South Sudan, Ethiopia, Tanzania, and Burundi, in keeping with what he calls a pursuit of good neighborliness. Palestinians demonstrated on Wednesday at the border with Israel east of the city of Gaza after Israeli police stormed the Al-Aqsa Mosque in Jerusalem and the Israeli army launched several airstrikes against positions of the Islamic resistance movement, Hamas, in the Gaza Strip. The Arab League is set to hold an emergency meeting to discuss an Israeli police raid on the Al-Aqsa Mosque in Jerusalem that left at least 12 Palestinians injured, while in the streets of Gaza, demonstrators call on the Palestinian people to defend and protect the mosque. The occupation forces' crackdown on Palestinian worshippers has sparked a military exchange of rockets and airstrikes, prompting violence as the Jewish Passover coincides with the Muslim holy month of Ramadan. The Palestinian Minister of Civil Affairs, Hussein al-Sheikh, condemned the action, stating that the level of brutality demands urgent international action. The Israeli-Palestinian conflict has plunged into escalating violence since Netanyahu's right-wing government came to power. So far this year, at least 91 Palestinians have been killed in the Israeli-Palestinian conflict. In India, rescue operations have resumed on Wednesday after a snow avalanche killed 7 tourists, injured another 13, and 20 other people had to be rescued. Authorities resumed operations at 8 a.m. local time on Wednesday in the state of Sikkim, north of the country. The Disaster Management Office said that rescue teams had to leave the area yesterday evening due to harsh weather. Another 350 tourists and 80 vehicles were rescued after roads were clear of snow. Authorities said that despite the resumption of the rescue operation, there may be no more missing persons. The avalanche happened in a tourist hotspot near the Natula border area, a mountain pass at an altitude of more than 4,000 meters, connected Indian Sikkim with neighboring China. Tens of thousands of workers and farmers from all over India stormed the capital on Wednesday against the unpopular policies of the government of Prime Minister Narendra Modi. Farm workers from different states of the country have arrived in New Delhi for the Sangharsh rally. In addition, some 300 academics, actors, writers, journalists, and veterans have pledged their support to the protests, convened by the All India Kisan Sabha parties. The Center of Indian Trade Unions and the All India Agricultural Workers Union demonstrators are demanding relief from inflation, fair prices for their crops, removal of anti-labor legislation, employment, and minimum wages increase, among other issues. We have come to the end of this news brief, where you can find these and many other stories on our website at telesurenglish.net. You can also join us on social media: Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, Telegram, and TikTok. For TeleSUR English, I'm Luis Alberto Matos. Thank you for watching.